Welcome to the November 24th Rotary meeting, Zoom only, unfortunately. And I serve as your club president. My name is Ron Lichtel. Everyone, please stand and we'll say Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, please join me in reciting the four-way test. The things we think, say, or do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will build goodwill and better friendships?
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Mr. David Erdley,
Yes.
will you give us our invocation, please?
Yes. I want to read the first verse of one of my favorite hymns, the Thanksgiving hymn, Now Thank We All Our God. Now thank we all our God with hearts and hands and voices, who wondrous things has done, in whom this world rejoices, who from our mother's arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts of love, and still is ours today. God, in the midst of this Thanksgiving week, we are grateful for the blessings that have filled our lives in the midst of this pandemic. We're grateful for the ways that we, through Rotary, have been a blessing to those around us in our community through care, through compassion, and through service. Be with us as we gather in very different ways this holiday. We pray for safety and health. We pray for the progress of the vaccines. And we pray, Lord, for those opportunities to place service above self and to be signs of what is good in the world around us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. If you're a guest, please sign into the Zoom chat so that Stuart Signer can get your information and talk to you a little bit. Jeff Whitby, are you here, or do we have any guests you want to introduce?
You're muted, Jeff.
Jeff, are you here?
He's muted.
He's muted.
Unmute yourself.
I tried unmuting there.
There you go.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yeah.
We've got ABMCLEL that nobody knows who it is.
Blake McClellan.
Anybody?
Yeah, that's Blake McClellan, somebody said.
Okay. And then there's a John's iPhone, but I'm not sure which John it is. But we don't have any other guests here.
All right. Normally I would say, who was the 15th temperature taken?
Yeah.
But I think it was, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was Jerry Carvey that came in.
It was me.
What's that?
Don't give it to Phil.
Don't give it, no. What you wave your hand for, Tom?
Is it the truth?
Lohman. It was Lohman.
Thank
It was
you very much.
No way. That is not the truth.
Well, as if we're at all concerned.
No, definitely not.
Okay, we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3 birthdays. One on the 24th, Marianne Redinger. Christine Haig is on November 26th, and Julianne Morian on November 29th. So let's sing happy birthday to our 3 Rotarians. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Rotarian.
Happy birthday to you. $5, please. Club anniversaries, we only had one. That was Tate Bowe, and she's been with us 9 years already. Is Ron here today? Ron's not here. How about Steve Ayler?
Yes, sir, Ron.
You got a little bit of an update?
And an update for everybody. Start off with a huge thank you to all the club members for making our poinsettia fundraiser as successful as it was. We had a goal this year to try to tie the numbers of last year when we didn't have the problem of a pandemic. I'm happy to say that our plant sales are in excess of 1,480 plants, which is huge, absolutely huge. We set a target of $16,000 net profit. Last year we cleared 11,500, and we base that number because we raised the price of the smaller plant by $5. By selling 1,480 plus plants, we are going to be in excess of that $16,000 profit mark. So
Awesome.
Here, Taylor.
absolutely fabulous. We've still got final numbers to total up from today. I don't expect there's going to be big numbers. A surprise would be nice. But those numbers as they stand right now are really very decent. A reminder, if you have orders to get in, Blake McClelland is going to be capturing all of those. And I hope Blake is still on. I saw his name was on, but it's not his picture. So I asked Blake if he would put his phone number and his email in the chat line so everybody can see that and have access to Blake if you need it. We can always use drivers. I think I have about 8 names right now, which could or should be enough. If you signed the sheet that we passed around about a month ago, I have your name. If you'd be interested in being a driver, please put your name on the chat line and we'll add you to the list. We're going to be doing something a little bit different this year to try to minimize the human contact. We're going to be asking the drivers to call in when you come to the back of the warehouse, and we'll verify that we have your order. We'll stage all your plants. You'll come in, load up, and leave. So we don't have multiple people in the warehouse at the same time and a lot of extra confusion and people contact. So I think it should be fairly smooth. I would ask that if you're going to be a driver, please put plants inside your vehicles. It's going to be cold. The forecast is in the low 30s, and poinsettias are very sensitive to cold weather. We had some issues last year where some of the plants that got delivered didn't do too well. And we don't know if it was because they got exposed to the cold or if they were in paper too long. If you're going to be a driver or if you're a recipient or just a deliverer of plants, Boardine suggests that you open that paper cone up that the plants are wrapped in if you're not unwrapping them right away. Because if you leave them closed, the plants give off a chemical that causes them to shed their leaves if they're in that captive environment for 4 or 5 days. So we had a little bit of that problem last year too. So unwrap your plants or leave them open. And if you're a driver, please be a driver that puts plants inside your vehicles, not in the backs of pickups, for example, where they're exposed to the cold. Last reminder is that we still have a chance for a shot in the arm with that barcode coupon that Boardines is offering that takes effect November 30th till December 3rd. Anybody who has that barcode scanned at the time of making a purchase at Boardines will trigger a 10% contribution on behalf of Boardines to the Rotary Club. So that's includes the pickup day of December 3rd. So remains to be seen, but hopefully we get some nice cash donations from Boardines for that. Online orders will shut off tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So if you have people that are still interested in making an online order, tell them to get them in. We need to do that before 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So any questions from anybody?
Yes. Steve, in making some of those phone calls I was making, Pat Dubay wants 2 and Paul Haig definitely wants 2 and he was putting it out. So, I mean, are we going to accept other orders if they come in?
It depends how big they are and when they come in, because Boardines needs time to take the plants from their warehouse in Grand Blanc. They water all the plants. They do some special packaging, put them in foil, things like that. So if they can't get them to the warehouse in time for us to get them on a delivery truck or by the 3rd, then we're gonna have to turn those down. But I'll get back to you one-on-one and we'll capture, what you caught. That's great, Ron.
Yeah, because Paul Haig was saying that I emailed him over the picture of the poinsettias and the pricing and that. He was emailing it out to a whole bunch of his customers, so we could have more coming in.
That would be awesome. Very good.
All right, thanks, Steve. That was great.
Very good.
Okay, actually, I'm back to you, Steve, again.
Okay.
You were Rotarian of the Week.
Yes.
So who did you choose for that honor?
Well, I'll tell you what, there were a ton of good candidates, particularly since we had such a incredible poinsettia fundraiser event, but I'm going to stay away from the fundraiser. My backup finalist was Mark Tisdale because he won his election, but we're a little bit away from the election. So the winner of Rotarian of the Week next week is going to be Ray Dorr. Ray is leading the effort to get our Constitution and our bylaws all rewritten. I can't imagine that's a very fun-filled assignment. So maybe Rotarian of the Week will cheer you up, Ray.
All right. Well, congratulations, Ray.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Next up, look out. It's the Sheriff, Brian Barnett.
Hey, I think I'm sheriff and the speaker today, so I don't know if there's a separate introduction for that, or if you want me to just kind of lead into it. But
don't confuse things now. I mean, come on.
All right. Well, listen. So a couple of things. Obviously, I was mostly focused on putting together a presentation for you guys today. So in terms of the sheriff stuff, first of all, before Ray, you get too excited about that. Not only were you not like the original finalist, you wasn't even like second. It was like fourth. So I mean, I'm not sure. Like if we're the Olympics, you wouldn't even be on the podium. But apparently that's a big win. So Steve, I love the way you did that. These are all the people I really wanted to give it to, but none of them could accept. And so Ray, it's yours. By the way, Steve, look at your background. Struggling with you talking about how great poinsettias are. You're in front of a hydrangea. It's hard to believe you. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? You could at least, couldn't you have gotten an early one and dump the hydrangea for a poinsettia so we could believe what you're saying? It's just not believable.
It's going to cost me $5. I see it.
Jay Eastman, I think it looks like you're calling in from Harry Potter's basement. Not sure where you are, but I'm sure there's some sort of spell that can get you out of there. And then Phil Lohman, actually, if you see Phil, where's Phil? I got to scroll over to Phil. Phil actually was in Phil spends a lot of time in Florida at the senior center there that he's a part of, and he was a part of the spelling contest, and he lost on the second word, and they gave him a hat for the word that he misspelled, and I think he's wearing it today. So there's Phil. Tough luck, Phil. Listen, I was thinking about doing some more stuff with this. In a moment of rare seriousness from me, you all know 2020 has been a really challenging year. Oh, by the way, one other thing before I say that, I think it's cute that the librarians, Julianne and Christine, both have their birthday within 3 days of each other. So apparently that's, it's like the Eastmans. They do everything together, those librarians. But in a moment of rare seriousness, it's been a really challenging year. And as we're in this week of Thanksgiving, you look across this board of faces, and there's so many memories and stories and friendships. I think it's important that we pause, and as opposed to thinking about all the challenges that we've been through and the things that have been unique in this year, I think we should all stop and put $5 in the pot and in the chat. Just for the friendships that continue to last through pandemics and economic rises and falls and all the challenges that this year has brought us. I'm grateful in this week of Thanksgiving for my friends from the Rotary, the good work that we do, the success of things like the poinsettia sales, and really my relationship with so many of you. So if you agree with me, why don't you put $5 and let's have a really good, grateful and thankful week. And let's show it in our sheriff's finds today. So thanks, everybody. And I'll be right back in a few minutes with an update on things going on in the city.
So I have to pay $5 to be your friend. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah, you're getting, that's a pretty good deal. If you prorate it over the year, I mean, think about it, that's nickels a day.
All right. Is Tim Duncan here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tim, you got the pleasure of introducing the new guest.
Yeah, it was the new guest. So how about the speaker? We'll go with the speaker today. So, all right, good afternoon, Rotarians. This afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Mayor Brian Barnett. Most people on this call know Brian is the mayor of Rochester Hills. We also know him as a dedicated Rotarian. I'm not going to go through all of Brian's accomplishments because, quite frankly, it would fill up our remaining time for this meeting. There's my compliment, Brian. So I thought I would give everyone a few tidbits of information about Brian that you may not know. He is mildly addicted to Diet Coke, especially when paired with his favorite cuisine of grilled cheese. There you go. Yep. He's also a big fan of fun socks. I don't want him to show his socks. Please don't. So there we go. There's some fun socks right there. All right. In addition, I'm pretty confident that none of you know this, but Brian almost gave up a successful political career to become a professional line dancer. In fact, I searched through his Facebook archives and I found, let's see here, see if I can do this.
This could be dangerous.
Let's see here. There it is. So now if you look closely at the image, notice the line dancer. Hang on one second. I got to move this around a little bit. So if you notice the line
Does he
dancer,
have his hand on someone's bum?
if you notice the line dancer in the background with that blue arrow right there, if you don't know who that is, let me zoom in on it a little bit. So here, there it is right there. So anybody see who that guy is in the background right there? All right, let me stop this right here. All right, so all kidding aside, Thanksgiving is in 2 days. So one of the things that I'm most thankful for is this community. And one of the primary people responsible for how great this community is Brian Barnett. Please join me in welcoming Brian Barnett.
That's awesome. That's a great introduction, Tim. I always get really nervous, and if you could have heard Maria go, "Uh-oh," sitting next to me, which said, "I scrolled your Facebook," and she, "Uh-oh," only trouble there. Hey, listen, thank you for a few minutes. I want to present to you today on a few things that are kind of a little bit across the board. I think you'll enjoy this. There's some new, hopefully, there's some new information in here and some things you might find interesting. And of course, I can't start without thanking a fellow Rotarian and my right hand, Maria Willett, who, of course, as you all well know, is a really vibrant part of this leadership team. And look, you're getting an applause, see? And also, most of you know Tom Taubert, who is my left hand, who's here with me as well. And really, I couldn't ask for a stronger three-person team to lead the city, and everything that we'll celebrate here in the next few minutes is in large measure of representation of the work that we do together. So let me start with a little bit of COVID update for all of you. Obviously, that's a pretty significant topic of everyone's conversation. It's sort of it shifts into just about everything that we're doing. I sit here in City Hall today and our doors are closed to the public except by appointment, and something we've done in relation to the more recent shutdowns from the State Health Department. But if you look at the numbers here, this is kind of where we are at the moment. This is Oakland County, and I will try and not be political. These are just actual numbers. We spend a lot of time. In fact, last week I was on the phone with the leadership at Ascension Hospital. I spend time every week talking with either Ascension or Beaumont, trying to find out what hospital capacity is, where we are with ICU beds and in particular COVID cases. And as you can see here in the county, we are above the numbers that we had back at the start of this in March and April. And I know all of you get these numbers and hear these from the state, but this is kind of the situation where we are now. And as you can see, trending in the wrong direction. I wanted to show this just to show you that this is not just something that has impacted people over 60 or people under 20. As you can see, here's a fairly decent distribution across most age groups between 10 and 90, 10 and 80 really. Obviously, I'm someone who has had COVID and gotten through it. Many of you have known folks probably that have had COVID. I'm not sure how many other Rotarians have had it or not, but certainly serious. And you see it really affects males, females, and really across all age brackets. And so it's important to understand that this is something that is really impacting everyone. This is an interesting slide here. This is the most granular information that we get. You'll see the zip codes there. I work in the 09, live in the 07, and you can see the populations there. Now, these aren't just Rochester Hills numbers. You get some of Rochester and some of Oakland Township in there. And you can see the total cases. And then, of course, the number that strikes you here is that 80 people in our community have passed away from COVID this year. That number clicks up, every 2 days, basically. As you can tell, that number, when you see CNN and you see millions and millions of cases worldwide and hundreds of thousands of cases, when you bring it down to your zip code, I think it makes, it tends to impact you a little more acutely. And those are the most granular numbers, as I mentioned, that we have for the city. One of the things that we've done, and obviously any elected official, whether it be the president, the governor, or myself, no one has ever been through a pandemic before. Just some of the things that I'm really proud of, we mobilized our team pretty quickly, partnered with a lot of folks in the community, some of them on this call. We began weekly calls with leaders of the other organizations in the city. We pivoted here to become an outreach organization. So we made 3,000 calls a week to our senior citizens to check on them. We distributed over 15,000 masks. If you lived in a senior center, we hand delivered masks to you. We got semi trucks of bleach and distributed them. Just like many of you in your businesses and the way you lead your personal lives, we wanted to live open-handedly and help where we could. People were in a really bad way. And so I won't get into all of these different things, but all these things are really important in how we handled the situation, again, without any preparation. We did a lot of after action reports to make sure we learned from the first time that we've applied to sort of the second time. This slide's up because this is really a national message that I'm taking. I'll tell you in a few minutes. I was on the phone with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris yesterday, and I asked a question specifically about vaccine distribution. Again, not trying to be political, but there's some good news from these three companies, Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca. We're looking at when these might be available. And the big thing for me as the mayor of Rochester Hills is, how this happens. How does a national distribution strategy occur? Because if you think about the national distribution strategy for PPE 6 or 8 months ago, we really didn't have a strong one. And so we were bidding against other communities. Our states were bidding against each other for things like gloves and masks and so forth. I remember one story, my purchasing manager here would set an alarm at 3 a.m. to wake up so that she could be the first to bid on, I think it was masks from China, that she had to get in at a particular time. And that's just not a good distribution strategy. We paid more than we should have. Again, we were competing with other communities, bidding and bidding and bidding because we needed to get the product here. And so my challenge to Vice President Biden and Senator Harris was to make sure that we have a strong distribution strategy, national distribution strategy for a vaccine. One of the things that the Pfizer vaccine, for example, has to be stored at -74 or -94, something like that. And, we have this many refrigeration units at the city that can handle something at -94. So are we going to find ourselves all of a sudden bidding against each other for refrigeration units that can hold something at -94? It's a long story, but this is where leaders need to be thinking about the next step. This is, the great scientists and physicians of the country are leading. They're going to provide a product. And my job as a mayor is to make sure that for those that choose to get it, those that want it, that we have a strategy to be able to do it. And that's what we're spending some time on now. Let me again, as we head into Thanksgiving, just reminding folks to be safe and to make sure that they're doing their best to protect themselves and their families. Let me switch gears now. I'm going to stay away from COVID the rest of the time. That's just something that almost everywhere I go, people ask me about it. And so I tend to lead with it in terms of some discussion. Let me tell you a little bit about how the city is doing. I was asked to speak a little bit about the state of the city. I just did my virtual state of the city. There was not as much dancing or singing or fireworks. I didn't rappel out of the ceiling, but I promise we're going to do some crazy stuff next year, right, Maria?
Yes.
I told her I want to do the whole thing underwater just to stress her out. So she's working on that. But one of the things, obviously, in my line of work, obviously the number one thing I'm responsible for is the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, businesses, and guests of Rochester Hills. And subsequent to that, I'm really responsible for managing the funds of the city, the money, your tax dollars, and to do that in a responsible way. And in March, when we were first hit with COVID, we were told by the federal government, by the state government, and by our own prognosticators here that 31% of our budget was at risk. Essentially, we could lose 31% of our budget. Through those things like state shared revenue, we didn't have any idea if people would be buying things. That's taxes, sales tax and so forth. Act 51, are people going to drive? They're hunkered down, there's nowhere to go. Gas tax is a significant way that we fund our roads. And investment income. Obviously the market was chaotic for a while there. And 31 cents of every dollar, we were at risk of losing. And the good news is that, the combination of things on the other side of the slide there, that all those things, state shared revenue has come in higher than projected. It turns out that in a pandemic, people do drive. It's how they relieve stress. They don't fly to Florida, they drive to Muskegon. And they drive up north and they drive to their cabin. And so Act 51 gas tax money has come in a couple points higher than it did in 2019, believe it or not. Maybe you know that to be true to yourself. But and then of course we did receive some CARES Act money, nothing direct from the federal government, but via Oakland County, we were able to reimburse a lot of things. I know the library was able to get some money. Rara, I think, is in the process of getting some money. Our museum got some money. So there's some money that's filtered down to help. And the budget that we passed for 2021, 22, and 23, I know Councilman David Walker is a Rotarian. I see his face on the screen. The budget that he passed calls for 0 tax increases for the next 3 years, which is really, really important to our residents and businesses to know that we're not asking for any more of your money. We're going to do everything on our end to be cautious and to be careful to make sure any additional dollars that that are needed will come from stuff that we already have collected, not in any tax raises, not in any tax increases, I should say, in the next 3 years. So that's a nice positive. One of the things that you all did to help make that possible is respond to the census. Now, this is a really exciting thing for us because this is kind of like our Olympics. I've been fortunate enough to be mayor long enough that this is my second census. But when I became mayor in 2006, I looked back at our numbers in 2000 and our city reported at like 72%. We were the 4th lowest reporting city in Oakland County, 4th lowest. Now, Rochester Hills usually leads Oakland County in just about everything, including good-looking leadership. But in this particular case, we were, that wasn't part of my notes, I tried to throw that in. But in this particular case, we did terrible, and it cost us because that impacted us in every year from 2000 to 2010. So in 2010, we put together this massive program to try to do better, and we did really well. And it meant a big influx of cash for us, over $1.4 million over the course of 10 years, just from filling out the census. So in 2020, we wanted to have the same approach. And what I'm especially proud about in this particular approach is that we've been preparing for this for 18 months. In fact, I traveled the country to talk about preparing for the census because of the good work we did in 2010. So we put together this plan, and this plan had us, going door to door and putting door knockers on and all these different things that we were going to do. Of course, then a pandemic hits and everything you plan goes out the window. And so then we had to rewrite the plan to include social media. We have a couple billboards, but really it was a strong social media presence that really became the #1 focus. And you can see our final response rate in 2010 was 79.1. We did a pretty impressive increase. And then this year, 85%, which put us at number 4 in the nation, for a census response rates of cities over 75,000. So we absolutely killed it. We crushed it. And this will help us accept the maximum amount that we can get for the next 10 years. We won't do this again until 2020. So thank you for putting up with me talking about the census. And thank you for those of you that responded. It was really, really important. There's no way that I can talk about this last year without talking just briefly about my presidency of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. It was a massive undertaking. It was an incredible experience. And I think I have just a short video that they put together that describes it. Most of you probably haven't seen this unless you saw my inauguration speech, but it's a couple minutes long. And this probably talks best a little bit about what my year was like leading America's mayors as the president of the United States Conference of Mayors. Take a look.
Hey, Brian, you need to switch the screen that you're sharing.
It was not showing.
Oh, all right. Is that better?
Now we see you.
I gotta be able to stop this, so.
Is that better?
No.
Can you see it?
We see the file explorer where the video is saved. When you do share screen, you gotta, the video has to be already open and then share that video screen in your little menu of options.
Okay, so this is gonna be really.
Give us 1 second. If we can't fix it, we've got a plan B.
And make sure you share your audio. Share computer sound is what it's called. It says in the corner of the share menu. There we go.
See a future better than our own. You got it? Can you hear it?
Yep.
We'll inspire the American electorate to see that mayors are offering real and sustainable solutions. We will inspire a generation into public service, and I hope we will inspire each other. I share personally that I truly have been so inspired by so many of you in this room. El Paso is much more than just the headlines and the breaking news alerts on immigration issues. We've also learned from Mayor Margo that El Paso and Juarez share much more than just a common border. We've learned about the economic development, the trade, the jobs, and really the family connections that know no borders between these two communities. As we continue to appeal to Congress and the administration, as we have for many, many years, we will continue to ask that they enact the comprehensive immigration legislation that, in the face of what we see on our border today, is so desperately needed. But all across this spectrum, we can help each other get started, help each other improve, and help each other create the voice of youth in our community.
This feeling of community, this acceptance of no matter who you are, no matter where you came from, what we care about is what's inside and who you are and what ideas you bring to our conversation. And so every mayor should experience this because there's so many things, so many practical takeaways.
More than 200 other mayors joined you, urging Congress to pass some gun control legislation immediately.
We think as mayors, certainly the United States Conference of Mayors and mayors in general have been leaders in this space for a long time. I think mayors are tired of seeing these things happen in their cities.
For mayors, this crisis is personal, and no community should have to live in fear of gun violence. And mayors, as we are today, are coming together here in Washington and across the country to tell this city and the leadership here that enough is enough, and we want to work together on a solution. Really, cities are the incubators of innovation, and Columbus is just one example of some of the transformational work that's taking place in America's cities, and it shouldn't be a surprise that mayors are at the forefront of those discussions. It's interesting that the conference comes back to Southeast Michigan because this is where it all started. 87 years ago, our forefathers gathered from across the country in the city of Detroit, and it was the birth of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I'm proud of this organization, proud of the mayors that I stand with, and proud that you won't hear a lot of partisanship here. Beautiful bipartisanship is on the endangered species list in America, and generally now only found in America's city halls. But we must protect it, we must embrace it, and we must pass it on, and we must never lose our high ground. 2 days ago, we unveiled our Mayor's Vision for America, our 2020 call to action.
We must keep pushing our federal colleagues to move from aspirational rhetoric to truly achievable results. Time is of the essence. America and the world is watching, Iowa. As John F. Kennedy stated, if not us, who? If not now, when? Well, mayors have been answering that call, and now we look to our leadership in Washington to do the same. America's mayors are constantly getting it done. And that's what this is all about. Despite the negativity that's happening around us, we are moving ahead, addressing the issues that matter most to the American people and getting real work done at home.
Now I find myself as president of the Conference of Mayors during an unprecedented time in America's history.
The coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
This virus doesn't discriminate. It attacks everyone.
People should be concerned, and leaders across this country should be taking urgent action.
My message today is straightforward and urgent. American cities are still being devastated by this pandemic, and it is imperative that Congress and the administration take swift and aggressive action. Mayors everywhere are leading the local efforts to defeat the virus. It's not a blue city or a red city issue, and there's no part of America or within your home districts that have not been significantly impacted, because the road to recovery runs straight through America's cities. We have to approach this from a nonpartisan perspective that all of us are Americans and desire to see our communities succeed, our small businesses succeed, and our communities stay healthy is critically important. Cities can't do this without federal partners. And so that's why you see mayors from across the country on this panel pleading with you, all from different political backgrounds, but all really professing a love for their communities and a desire to see them succeed.
This feeling of community, this acceptance of no matter who you are, no matter where you came from, what we care about is what's inside and who you are and what ideas you bring to our conversation.
I feel uniquely prepared because of the relationships I have and the network I have of other mayors to help me get through situations like this. I couldn't be more proud to be a mayor and couldn't be more proud to be president of a conference that recognizes its role in a crisis.
I'm proud of this organization, proud of the mayors that I stand with, and proud that you won't hear a lot of partisanship here. What you'll hear is folks focused on how to get things done.
It remains my highest privilege to represent all of you as president of this family. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the Conference of Mayors. Thank you.
So one of the things, obviously, that was a significant part of my year outside of coronavirus was the election. And from spending some time in Iowa a couple times, once going to the Iowa State Fair, which was certainly an interesting moment and an interesting time, voting by corn kernels, kind of the start of the American election process, to hosting the presidential candidates in a couple forums. This was really cool. I got to lead this off and kick this off with all the candidates. And this is as grassroots as it gets, high school gymnasium, I think this was, convention center. This was just really, really exciting, to a continuing relationship with both President Trump and with President-elect Biden. As you know, I've talked about the president inviting me to the White House about 7 times the last 2 Christmas parties, inviting me here to talk about what was happening in cities. This was a really fun conversation. And as you can see, there aren't too many people around us. To meeting Vice President Biden, President-elect Biden, I have to change your titles here, are all really interesting experiences to me. The election was, of course, certified yesterday here in the state of Michigan. The numbers here locally, pretty interesting. About just a tick under 79% of people voted, and almost 70% of those people that voted absentee. So a really great turnout from the city of Rochester Hills. It's the first time in the history of the city that the Democratic presidential candidate won the city of Rochester Hills by about 2 points. Mostly want to thank our team for doing a great job. But incidentally, the Republican senator candidate for senator won the city. So there was a lot to digest in this election, and a lot to consider. But it was a very interesting election. Thank everyone who worked on it and helped with making it possible. And then, of course, yesterday, I mean, you have to transition. If you saw my Facebook post yesterday, this is from less than 24 hours ago when I was on a call with Biden and Harris, and I had a chance to participate with them in a relatively small group. I think there's about 40 mayors on the call, talking about the transition, talking about COVID and infrastructure and so forth. So, my job is to represent my city, and I probably equally offended people in the last 7 minutes with the people that I've shown on the screen. But my job is to make sure anybody who can help my city, a Republican president, a Democratic governor, a Democratic county executive, a Republican state rep, any of those folks that can help my community and help my businesses, I'm going to work to support and build a relationship with. That's just the strategy I've always had. It's taken me far and done well so far, and I'm not planning on changing it. So, to have access to the top people in the nation has taken a long time for me to acquire this, but it's something that I value and something that hopefully brings value back to the city. Let me end with this, and then I'll be happy to take some questions. Throughout all this, all the national stuff, all the fun stuff that I've been doing, the places I've traveled, the people I've met with, the situations I found myself in, I love the fact that our city has not taken its eye off the ball in terms of what's important. And two projects I'll leave you with. You're very familiar with one. We met out there recently, Innovation Hills. The playground is coming together. I want to thank you, Rotarians, for your support of the pavilion area and just your constant support of everything that's just happened in the city, from the Rotary outlook on the Clinton River Trail to just the way you've engaged with drinking fountains at Wabash and all the things that you've done over the years. We are a better community because of the engagement of Rochester Rotarians. And I just want you to know personally that I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm really, really proud of that. The other project that you might not know as much is the work we've done along Auburn Road. If you haven't been down there, I'd encourage you to do it. It's really taken a beautiful new shape. Just about a month ago, we opened up the city's first splash pad. If you don't know what a splash pad is, that's what it is. We have, I think, one final short 2-minute video that I'll show you about the splash pad.
Mayor of the city of Rochester. Can't see it yet.
You probably can't see that yet, can you?
No, they can't see it yet.
Maria says you can't see it. If Maria says you can't see it, then you can't see it. So give us 15 seconds and then I'll take some questions.
And as always, thanks for watching.
John, can you see that?
We're here today in a very cool new location on
Yes.
a really important day.
Thank you.
We're here on Auburn Road, kind of in the middle of the Auburn Road corridor, and you've heard me talk about all the amazing things that are happening here with the new roundabouts and the plantings and all the things that have made walking and biking and even driving this section of town much more safe. But not only did we want to make this a more safe traverse for folks using this part of our community, but we also wanted to make it more fun. And we also wanted to do something for the residents of this community. So we decided to put the city's very first splash pad right here in the heart of the Brooklands on the Auburn Road corridor. And today we turned it on. Now, I know there's not much left of the season, so we wanted to just see how things would work and kind of get a flavor for how it would operate. But this splash pad will be open no later than Memorial Day and maybe even sooner next year for all of the residents of our community to enjoy.
So we're excited about that. There's more to that video, but of course, if you want to see it, you can look on the city's YouTube page. Last thing I'll tell you, this is kind of fun that just happened this last week. We found out that the city was recognized for the 4th year in a row, in one measure, 4th year in a row from the FBI and 4th year in a row from a group called Munetrics as the safest city in the state of Michigan, which is pretty cool for us. There we are. You can see the terrible communities that we beat, those very unsafe, dangerous places that we beat on the right. But obviously, when it comes down to it, the safety and security of the people of the city, as I started with, is the most important thing we do. And thankfully, thanks to God, we have done a pretty good job of that, at least according to the statistics. A leader is one who, out of the clutter, brings simplicity, out of discord, harmony, out of difficulty, opportunity. That is from Albert Einstein, and that is not about, I'm not saying that's me, I'm saying that's all of you in the Rotary. Appreciate the leadership that so many of you have shown in leading your organizations in our city, leading the people that you lead, the nonprofits that you lead. All of it ladders up to a strong community, and I'm just really grateful this week, especially in this week of Thanksgiving, to work with so many talented people, both on my staff here in the city of Rochester Hills and living and working in this community that allows us to recognize some of the great achievements we have. So I'm happy to stop now and answer any questions that there might be. And I guess I'll turn it over to you, Mr. President, and you can facilitate those questions. Hit the chat.
All right, any questions we have?
Brian, I was wondering, what criteria do they use for determining like the safest city? I mean, obviously, probably murders are the #1 thing, but what else do they use?
Well, yes, we don't talk a lot about murders here. You know, they look at the state of Michigan numbers. They'll look at both Part A and Part B crimes. The FBI statistics. The FBI has certain statistics that they evaluate that look at population versus these different criteria of crime. So it's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of specifics. So you can kind of really get into what's a Part A versus a Part B. But I can tell you that crime in our city is two ways to look at it: exceptionally low. But I always am careful to say that, because on the other side of that, we do have like a break-in about every other night in the city, whether it's a car or a home. So while we are regionally and nationally one of the safest places to live, it does not mean you shouldn't still lock your car, lock your home, and just be smart. But we are generally still really blessed with a very safe place to live and raise a family. Any other questions?
Okay, Brian, thank you very much. You always step up to the plate with the best. I mean, you've always presented everything spectacular. Any other questions before we close out?
Yeah, you give a presentation, nobody asks questions, you think people loved it, or they absolutely can't wait to get off the call. And it's probably 50-50 out there. So hey, give me 1 second. Tom, you come over here. Maria, come over here real quick. Just want you guys to see the two people that I'm so grateful for, Maria and Tom, who do a great job and really are just fantastic advocates for the city everywhere they go. So they get most of this credit. So I want to make sure I recognize them as well.
I always thought Maria was the actual, mayor. You're just the head,
There's two people that think that, Mr. President, you and her.
All right. I'll tell you what, it's great that we're still meeting. I mean, we were meeting live there for a while, which was unbelievable. And I'm praying that we get back there. But Brian, thank you. Seriously. I mean, you do a great job for the city. I love living in this. I grew up in Troy. I'd never move back there. They're down on the bottom of that totem pole. So
very dangerous in Troy. It's a terrible place. Tell everybody you know.
Anyway, before we close out, anything? All right, listen, have a great week. Have a great Thanksgiving, and God bless all of you.